Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. You know, I'm eating low carb, and I've perfected low carb pasta. And I will link that video, by the way. But to top off the best pasta, you need the best sauce. And you want to keep it keto or low carb if that's how you're eating. So I have this wonderful clam sauce to share with you today. This sauce just has it all. It's keto, it's cheap, it's easy, and it's so tasty. So I'm going to show you how to make it. In the meantime, if you like our videos, give us a thumbs up. We'd love it if you'd subscribe and click the little bell icon at the top, and you'll get a notice when I post new videos. Now let's make this sauce. Now I'll go over these ingredients in the info section. I'll give you a list. This is a small can. It's about 7.5 ounces, I think, of clams. I bought this at the dollar store for $1 at the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to drain the juice off into a cup. And then I'm going to make up the cup as soon as I clean up my little splash here. Make it up to 1 cup, adding chicken broth. If you have fish broth, you can add that and it would be wonderful. Most everybody has chicken broth. So I'm just going to make this cup up to 1 cup with the chicken broth. Now this clam juice is kind of salty, so you'll want to allow for that when you're cooking. And this is going to make 3 to 4 servings, by the way. So here is my favorite Piqua cast iron skillet. I end up using it for most things because it has nice high sides. And I've put just enough olive oil in the pan and turned it on medium heat. I want just enough to cover the bottom. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. And we want to leave this on medium heat now because we don't want this to scorch or to turn brown. So I have here about 2 tablespoons full of grated onion. And I grated it on purpose instead of chopping it because I want this to stay smooth and I don't want any chunks of onion. This is going to be a really sort of creamy sauce. I'm not adding cream. And that is some minced garlic, about a half a teaspoonful, maybe closer to a teaspoonful, maybe 2 cloves. And that's going to be to your taste, not too much. You don't want to scorch it either. So that's why we've got medium heat here. And I'm just going to let that cook for just a couple of seconds. And then I'm going to add the clams. And that's actually a good bit of clams, especially for $1. And you know, you don't always find them that cheap. But canned clams are not that expensive. And when you're serving 4 people, even if you paid 3 times the amount I did, it's still a very, very inexpensive sauce. So I'm going to stir those around just a bit and let them get not brown, but sizzly, and to get the butter flavor in them. And now what we're going to do is make a roux, and I'll let you know, I'm going to use CarbQuick. It's something I've been using for low carb cooking. It's really good. I have a 1/4 cup of it here. You can make this very easily with flour. You would use 2 tablespoons full of flour instead of a 1/4 cup of CarbQuick. It has just a little bit different properties, and it doesn't thicken as much as flour. CarbQuick doesn't thicken quite as much as flour, so I'm doubling the amount. If you want to keep this keto, you could use glucomannan or the xanthan gum. It's just better with the CarbQuick, in my opinion. Only adds about 1 gram of carbs. But you know, if you want to make this with flour, that only adds 12 grams of carbs. Divide that by the servings of 4, and you've got 3 grams per serving. So it's up to you, but the CarbQuick just, it does wonderful in this, and you can't really tell the difference in the flavor. between CarbQuick and flour in this dish. That's not true in all dishes, but it is in this one. So I'm going to add a little salt, and I really only added just a little bit because, as I said, the clam juice has some salt in it. And I'm adding just a tad of oregano. That's optional. I just like the flavor. And then I'm going to add some red pepper flakes. That's also optional. You can use black pepper if you'd prefer. And if you have some special seasoning you want to add that you would add to Italian seasoning, you could do that. I like to keep the seasoning fairly light on this because the clams just have a wonderful flavor. So that's hot. I browned it just a little bit, and I'm going to add my broth mixture here. The broth mixture is cold. It's at room temperature. My roux was hot. That minimizes any lumps. And I'll add this in. Now, if you've used flour instead of CarbQuick, it's going to thicken a little more quickly, and it'll thicken just a little bit more. But with the 1/4 cup of CarbQuick in here, I'm going to get enough thickening for this. We don't want a really thick sauce. This is light. It will stick to your pasta. It has a wonderful mouthfeel. It's so rich. So I've got my whole cup in, and I'm going to let this sit and simmer. I'm going to let it sit and simmer for a little while so it will reduce. It'll get thicker than this. I have my pasta ready. In the back, you'll see I have a pot of hot water. That's for my pasta. I'm cooking fresh pasta, but if you're using boxed pasta, start it cooking before you start the sauce. So let's give this a little taste, just for salt, and it's just fine. Now I want this to reduce just a little, so I'm going to move it to the back while I cook my pasta, and I'll keep it on a medium heat. If you have used flour, you want to keep it on a low heat, just barely warm, or it'll get too thick. So let me move my hot water here. I'm going to cook my fresh pasta, and then I'll be right back. And here's my freshly made keto ravioli, 10 grams of carbs for that whole plate. And I'm going to add this sauce. And if you use flour, you're adding about 3 grams of carbs here. If you used CarbQuick, you're adding less than 1. No dairy in this to count. All that you've added here that has any carbs is the CarbQuick, and that was very low. So I'm going to top it with a little Parmesan cheese. I'll take it to the table and dress it up a little. Little parsley flakes, little fresh spinach, because my ravioli is stuffed with ricotta and spinach. So I have a little spinach on the side here. And look at that sauce. It's not too thick. It sticks to the pasta. This is a yummy, yummy sauce. And, you know, it seems fancy, but it was so easy and inexpensive. As far as seafood goes, a can of clams is not very expensive, and it goes a long way. You can easily double this recipe if you have a big family, or even if you just want more sauce, but I pretty much drenched this in sauce. And I want you to see the silky texture. As far as sauces go, you can get a lower carb sauce using this type sauce than you can with the tomato sauce. And, you know, sometimes you just want to vary it up. And, you know, if you go to the time and trouble to make fresh pasta, you want a sauce that will highlight it and show it up rather than just drown it and cover it up. I hope you try this recipe. I hope you like it as much as I do. And I hope to see you again tomorrow.